Hi everybody. So I'm going to work now. So it will be a long drive, about 1 hour drive to go on the west side of Los Angeles. And usually I leave earlier in the morning, but I had to prepare my cats on my computer. So when I work on a project, usually I sketch up the project. I design it on SketchUp, and even though the project change on the field, because the dimensions are different, because everything you have to adjust everything, and sometimes customers change IDs, or the materials make you change the ID you had at the beginning. Even though a project might change, I always design on SketchUp. I don't make an architectural design. It's SketchUp, so it says it all. It's mostly an advanced sketch of a design, good enough to give me an idea of what I have to cut, and precise enough to be able to put the shapes together, but not that precise, because on the field, when like the project I've done to build the pergola and the decks, I would not have been able to draw anything so precise on the map, because the levels of the house were not leveled. The angles of the house were odd. Everything was odd in the house. Nothing was planned, and even the windows were not leveled, and the angles were not. We did not have any parallel, anything that was that would work as a mark to start somewhere. So on SketchUp, what I do on SketchUp is design a general idea of what I'm trying to do. So my customer knows the shape, and usually the shape is good. What might change is the angles. What might change is height, for example, of a deck, because the ground is not flat. There are different levels, and at some point when you start to build, you have to. Okay, you had the general idea. Now, when you start to build, it's all way different, because you start to put the first mark and you say, this is where I want the deck to be, as high to be, and this is the highest I can go, and this is the lowest I can go, and you have to build in between. And usually when you start a project, you don't even know if your customer is going to buy it. So what I do on a design is something enough advanced to sell my project, but not too precise, because I don't want to spend hours on making design, taking dimensions, and taking the quotes of the angles. If I start to be very precise on the design, it takes hours and hours just to take the dimensions and to report the dimensions in the computer. It's useless, because I don't even know when I start if I'm going to sell it. So the method I have is the same method I use to build. Is I make a big picture. It's like painting. I make the sketch, and I go on. I don't go in the details. I just put all the lights, the shadows, some kind of colors, some kind of shapes, and then the more I go inside the project, so the more I will work on the details. And the detail is carpentry. And this is a kind of design. And this is also why I so much like doing carpentry, because it's probably one of the profession which is the closest with my architectural work. So I design, I put a shape, I make some slight details on SketchUp, like I choose, like on the pergola, I decided to design those kind of bone structure for the beam, because I thought that it would bring more solidity, but I thought also that the bone structure would bring some kind of elegance to the pergola. So what I try to do when I design is give an idea enough precise for my customer to be inside the project. And then when we start to build, we work together. I mean, it's not, the design is not finished. It's now we are starting the making. And it's just like when you make a dress, you design a sketch for a dress, and then comes the making. And the making is to fit the fabric on the body. And so it's a lot of adjustment, and it's fashion. It's how to say? In French we say haute couture. It's I mean, you fit the fabric on the body, and the carpentry is just the same. You have to fit the wood in the structure, in the building, on the field. So you have the ground, you have the walls. Here on the project we had electrical wires. You have the line of the roof. You have the windows. You have the doors. You have in the ground we had the pipe, the plumbing for the garden, the wood watering the garden. So I had pipes that I had to build a door for the gardener to access the pipes. We had to change the hose of the gas line, because it was just on the way, and I needed an access to fix the structure on the concrete. We had to change also the water line, because also it had never been done properly. And when I built the old deck, we had a concrete structure, and of course a concrete structure at the top of the ground changes everything, especially when the concrete structure is not even. Nothing was even. It was all small repair made at different time of the life of the house. And when you arrive with a project, so you make this beautiful design on SketchUp, and then you start to build. And how do you do that? So to start to do that, usually when I have the big picture, I try to find where I'm going to make my level. So I know with the big picture where I have the main lines, the structural lines, like I have beams in a way, and those beams are going to give a perspective. And it's a scenography, so I know which perspective I want. So for example, the pergola, I had the perspective in one way, but I had a budget also to buy the materials. And if you follow only your ideas, sometimes it does not fit, because the materials are so expensive. Or for example, tracks, the deck were built with tracks, and we only have special dimensions. So at some point, like, we design in a way, and after we say, okay, we have to change a little bit the design. So I built one deck, and on the design I was not supposed to build another deck. The design was to only build one step, but I made a mistake. When I placed the order of the materials, so I bought more materials than I was supposed to do. And the shop I could have returned the materials, because the lumberyard was okay to take it back. But my customer said, well, we have that now, so let let's keep that and let's try to do something with it. So we decided to make another deck, and so we had all those cuts, and I'm happy because he's happy now that it's bigger. It's way bigger than it was supposed to be, and it looks really great. And but this is the way it is. So on SketchUp I have a big picture of what I'm going to do, and like the top of the wall on SketchUp, I don't make the slope of the wall. I know that the top of the wall is not perfectly level, but on SketchUp I don't even try to do that, because I would spend hours to do that, while I don't even know. When I made the design, I didn't know if my customer would buy it. And if I keep on thinking as an architect, saying, okay, now okay, it's a project, I have the project, and I have to correct my design, then I would spend so much time just designing and not doing anything. I mean, designing is productive on a big project. You have to think ahead of what you are going to do, because it helps you save time and money. But sometimes it's a loss of time and of money. So what I do when I have the big picture, I design on the ground. And this is the part that I love the most about carpentry, is when I take those pieces of wood and I say, okay, so we made the first design. We have the materials now, so this is what I have to work, and now I have to optimize my cuts, not make any mistake, and think twice. And this is when I correct my design on the field. So I start to take the levels, and instead of paper or instead of a computer, what I do is I draw on the wood, and I place all the pieces together. So I do in real what I should have done in SketchUp. And this is the most exciting part of the job. It's when you have your rulers and your squares and your compass and your pens, and you start to put it on the field. Unreal, you know, you have this ground is odd, you have all those pipes, nothing fits inside, and you have the concrete, you don't even know how you are going to drill inside, because you have those big stones, and you just feel it at the beginning. It's going to be a mess, it's going to be hard, it's going to be really difficult, but this is so exciting, because well, it's, you have so many tasks to do to make a project that you have to focus your mind and say, okay, I start with one little thing, and then I do another one, and then another one, and every day you make your tasks to say, day after day, okay, I'm doing that to achieve. So you always focus your mind on the finality of your project, and the finality of the project is a big picture you made at the beginning. And now you are on the field, and you have to crawl in the mud, and to take the bites of the mosquitoes, and take the sand and be burnt, and you have, like me on the field, I have few tools. I go there, I have 2 bags of tools which are mine. My customer, everywhere I go, usually my customers have tools, so I use their tools, and it saves me money and it saves them money. And when they don't have the tools, I ask my customers to buy the tools, even though we have to resell it, and it's a deal I make with them. If I would have to buy my tools, I would have to charge it on my hours, and the hours is a big part of a project, because we spend a lot of time to build. So this is a deal I make with my customers. I say, I don't have the tools, you provide the tools. I have just the minimum, and the minimum is Ryobi, you see. But so you provide the tools, I work with your tools, And I have Ryobi because the first big project I had was with a movie company, and the guy said, "Oh, don't worry, I have everything. I have a warehouse and I have the tools. You don't need any tools to build my project." So I was like, okay, if you have the tool, then I can do it. And when I arrived in the warehouse, the tools were Ryobi tools, and I was like shocked, I was like, is that a real movie company? Is that a joke? Are they trying to insult me with those Ryobi tools? I mean, the first time I tried to make a cut with a Ryobi saw, and I put the ruler, fix the ruler, take the blades, and I could not even understand how the line was not parallel. And the line was not parallel because the plate of the Ryobi is not parallel, so you will never have anything right with a Ryobi tool unless you think twice before. But I've learned from that Ryobi tools die fast, but they are very cheap, and compared to the rate of my hours, it's worth it for a customer to buy tools. And if they want to sell it after, they take a warranty, so we change them, then resell them. There is always to get back on the budget. But I don't buy the tools. So that means that when you arrive on the field, you have a ground which is not leveled, it's not flat, it's not SketchUp. SketchUp is it's plain, it's really flat. Reality is different. The walls are not even level vertically, they are not leveled, the angles there is nothing that is perfect. And here in California, we are in a seismic area. That means that even though we don't feel the seism too much, the ground is always moving, and especially on the west side, the ground, the dirt is mostly made of sand. So any house built on the sand usually move, because the sand, is like, it's not like rock. So that means that every project where I work on the west side, everything is odd, and you have to adjust with that. And you need to adjust with the tools, and you need to adjust with whatever you have. But this is exciting, and this is the part of the job that I really like about carpentry. And being a woman carpenter is makes it even more enjoyable. Like the other days, the firemen were horning in front of the house just to say hello, and because I was building a deck, and that's funny. And women customers, not all of them, some of them are really bad, but some of my customers just take care of me, like they give me beauty products, clothes, stuff, and I'm glad. It's a way to tip my work. It's a way also to show that they are happy with my work, and that's the kind of gratification that is difficult to have in this world, because most of the time you work, people pay you, and once they paid you, they think that it's okay, they don't owe you anything, while you put a lot of yourself, of efforts. Like here, it takes me 1 hour to go to work, and when in the evening on this season, because the sun goes down very early, that means that when I go back home, it takes me 2 hours last night I left work at 5:50. Then I stopped to buy some products for the drive, for some food. Then I was scared that I did not close the garden gate properly, so I went back to the project to check that everything was alright before I leave. Then I went on the road, and with the traffic it took me, I arrived at 8:30. I mean between 8 and 8:30. And when you drive in traffic, you are exhausted after an exhausting day. Yeah, yesterday was not exhausting. It was a small project, it was fun, it was nothing. It was important but nothing. But usually, you know, when you carry wood all the day, Trex is very heavy, Ipe is super heavy, Cedar is alright, it's not heavy. But when you make your day and you move the wood from the storage area to the saw, to the table to make your marks, back to the saw, then to the carpentry where you make other marks, then back to the saw, and you do that all the day, back and forth from the saw to the construction field. It's exhausting. And at this season, it's not too hot, so it's okay. But in summer, you have the sun, you are sweating, you have the dust, and the dust stays stuck on your skin, and there is absolutely no comfort about doing carpentry. And but converting a drawing into something that you build yourself is so exciting. It's probably the kind of job I've done in LA which brings me the more satisfaction about what I do, about the person I am. And when I do carpentry, I arrive in the morning, I feel nauseous because of the drive. Sometimes I have headaches. Sometimes I'm tired. Sometimes I don't feel that okay, you know. But when I start to work, the pain goes anywhere, but it leaves my body, you know. I don't feel pain anymore. And I think that this is the good sign of having a job that I really enjoy. Sometimes you arrive at work and you have pain in your body, you have headaches, for some reason your back hurts, your stomach hurts, you feel nauseous, and your work makes you even more nauseous. It's even worse. My job does not make it worse. It's a cure for me. It's a real cure. I feel happy. I feel sexy. I feel I feel good. And I'm not young, but I feel good. And well, it's for sure it's not an easy job. And the worst part of it is being paid. Sometimes customers are really bad. They try to take advantage of everything, you know. But that main part of the job, it's to get paid. It's to show those kind of muscles. The kind of muscle that you don't need on your job. I mean, it's a hard work. But if you see women in a gym club doing what they put on their body, and the life of a woman what they put on their body. Carpentry is not more difficult for a woman. It's difficult, but it's not more difficult. It's just a question of education. You have to, it requires a good knowledge, good attention, to be focused. It's just to be focused is education. You have the phone rings, you don't answer. This is part of the education. You work silent, you don't talk. This is part of the education. And I've worked with men, and you have good and bad people in both gender. And you have male carpenters, they are not strong. They are not more strong than the woman. But it's a way to work. The way you work makes it easier. The way to carry. I don't carry anything like a man. I don't work like a man. And I don't pretend to be a man. I don't even do geometry like a man. I don't think like a man. But I think that women have how to say, carpentry is a job as much for a woman than a man. Building a house is a job as much made for a woman than for a man. Doing a good job, a woman can do it as well as a man, with precision. And sometimes it takes some kind of delicatesse with the materials that women can have and men can't. So, but it's different. The way to practice carpentry, the woman, is way different than what a man would do. And this is probably the most challenging part for a woman carpenter. It's to make the kind of work that you want to do, not what you learn from school. School is the basic. Life is different. It's like SketchUp. You make a big picture and then you go on the field, and the field is different. And the career, as a woman carpenter, you learn the basic at school, and then life is different. You meet people, and you meet men and women who are not carpenters. And don't think that men take advantage of women. Both genders take advantage. I know I've met many women that think that because I am a woman, I'm going to work for free for them, because I should feel sorry for them. Why they should feel sorry for me? I am the one carrying the wood and cutting the wood and taking risks. But some women customers think that I should feel sorry for them. So I should be cheaper. And they dare to ask me what they would never ask to any man. They dare to talk to me like they would never talk to any man. Sometimes women are worse than men. We cannot even call it machismo. It's the ugliest part of humanity. The way one human tries to take advantage of another human, because this human being thinks that he or her is superior to what you are, because they have the money and you are the person working for the money. So they think because you are working for the money, they can take advantage. And this is it has nothing to do with gender. Greed has no sex, and some customers are really greedy. I met so many of them, but usually they remember me, because when it's time to get paid, usually I go and get my money. And if I have to carry bowls, it's bowls to put my money inside. Well, so you see, it's a long drive. Fortunately, today I left later because I had to work on those dimensions for the wall. And so what I've done for the wall, I've designed the wall, and I've defined the height of the wall, then how many posts I want, then so the average dimensions of the boards. And now I'm going to build that on the field. And on SketchUp, the top of the wall is perfectly plan on the field. The top of the wall is not plan. And that was a question I was trying to figure out. Am I going to cut the lower board to try to make it level, or am I going to trick on some kind of perception? And I think that solution is to trick on the perception. And to trick on perception, that means that when it's odd, keep it odd. And so that means that if I try to put a right angle on something odd, my right angle will never look right. So when you have an odd angle, the best way to make it look like right, it's not to be right, it's to be odd a different way. So that means that I will have to, before I do my cuts, I will have to make some proof test before. So I use the wood I have, I put in the trash, I make some cuts, I try to build something that looks like what it's supposed to be at the end. And every time I have spent to make proof test before, has always been a time I have won at the end, because at the end, when you, like, if you make a mistake cutting the materials, first you will have to redo it anyway, so the time is lost. But you will have also to buy the materials, so the time is lost, the material is lost. And then when you buy materials, you have the logistic of the materials, and especially when you work with Cedar and eBay and all those and Trex, you have to order, then you have to be delivered, and sometimes they don't deliver, so you have to pick it up yourself. And when you don't have a big truck but a small car like me, that means that you have to rent, or you have to find a way to get a truck somewhere. So the time you spend on the logistics, the time you spend on headaches explaining your customer that you made a mistake. And some customers are, handy, so they can understand a mistake can happen. Well, the field is odd, but if they are too handy, they understand too well that you should have made a proof test, because they would have done that. And if they are not handy, they don't understand that you can make mistakes. You are an expert and you cannot make mistakes. So anyway, to avoid any kind of discussion that should at the end become very, very painful, you make proof tests. And proof tests, usually every time I have done proof tests, especially on odd angles, have shown that I have won time, because I don't, it's usually it's fast. You don't spend as much time on a proof test as you spend at the end. And you don't mind losing the material, so you dare much to do things the way you think you should do it. And once it's done, then you know exactly what you have to do after. And this is what I'm going to do on the walls. I'm going to do some proof tests before I cut the eBay. So today was a fast drive because I left very late and I did not have any traffic jam. And I think that's it. I just wanted to talk about sketching and putting a drawing on the field. Maybe later I'll work with more details, because I don't use any plan. I sketch, but I don't use any plan. The plan is in my head, and I go with a big picture. I just take rough dimensions, and what I do with SketchUp is understand very well what I have to do. And when I had my company in France, and I had about 10 employees of different level. I had 5 guild carpenters. I had I did not have 5 guild carpenters. I had 3 guild carpenters, I had an engineer, and I had a marine carpenter, somebody who has learned to build boats. And I had social workers. So when you start a project with all those kind of different people who think differently, who have learned their job differently, who have different experience of life, some arrive in carpentry because they have been to school, some and some of them have been to school because they wanted, in the bottom of their heart, they wanted to be carpenters. But some of the others, I had one guy, he had been in a university, in a school of philosophy, and he did not like it. So he changed his mind and he said, well, I'm not going to be a philosopher, so I'm going to be a carpenter. And so he was starting school, but he was starting a school of carpentry, a guild school of carpentry, which is very special. And so that means that I had newbies like that who come on the fields, they don't even know what we're talking about. And I had more expert carpenters who had experience before. And so when you start a project with all those people, you have to make sure that as a manager, you have to make sure that everybody understands what is the goal, what is the big picture, what are you talking about, what you want things to be like that, what is your goal. Like I have beams, I want the beam to bring this kind of perspective, I want the wall to look like that, this is a big picture I want at the end. And then you go in the details, and then you say, so to get this beam in this direction, I have to make the frame this way, and to make the frame this way, because I have a door and a window and a concrete post here, and a line of wood there, and a line of gas over there. Then that means I can only have a post here because there is not much choice. So when you go in the details, that's when you start to be on the field, and you start to put your guys on the field. And so the more you go on the details, the more you try to put the team together, and to understand what is the goal. We all go in the same direction. Whatever the task is on the field, whatever they do, some carpenters will cut, Some carpenters will just hold and help the other ones to put the frame together. Some of them will have to organize the materials, so we have to move the materials from one area to the other area. But what we need to do is everybody to understand what we are doing and where we are going. And now I work alone. And I work alone because in California it's difficult to find good people, and I enjoy working alone also. Not having when I was in France with my company, I was almost never on the field because I was always I was the owner of the company. So that means that I was a person putting the money in the company. I was a person buying the materials, finding the customers, working with the customers, and be the direct person in charge of the project with the customers. I was also working with bankers, and I was having concourse, and my guys worked on my patents, and they worked on my ideas, and they worked on my design, and I was as engine, like a train, you know, you have the engine at the front of the train. I was this engine, and the guys were the train behind. And I've done all that, but in fact I did not have much time left to be on the field, and sometimes it has been a big frustration, especially with guild carpenters, because whatever you do there is a kind of rivalities. A guy with a guy, it's always confrontation, which one knows the best, and with a girl it's the same. And so it's sometimes it's difficult to be the manager and to be the person on the field who knows exactly what has to be done. And sometimes you are off the field because you have something else to do. You have your job as a manager. You have to do the accounting, you have to be with the accountants, you have to be with the bankers, you have to be with the customers, you have to be with the insurance, you have to be with all what you have to do to manage a company, which is a big job by itself. And every day managing a company, it's solving a problem. In fact, one day a banker gave me a good idea of being a boss. A boss, what is a boss? A boss is having problems every day and solving those problems. That's it. And I was fed up of that, because especially in the field where I was, that was a real headache. So now I work alone, and I'm very glad of that, because I do the logistic when it's time to do the logistic. When I finish to do the logistic, I do the sketching. When I finish to do the sketching, I do the construction, and each task after another. And I'm the person doing that, and this brings me satisfaction, because I still have my job that I still had. I had in France, doing the design, selling my ideas, being in contact with my customers, buying the materials, finding the best materials, choosing the hardware, but at the end I build it myself without anybody to mess up anything, and I'm so glad of that. Especially at the end, when your customer comes and says, you know, it's even better than I thought. And this makes my days, several days of happiness, where I'm glad that I get dirty for doing that. Because after that, when I finish, my customers sit on the deck and they enjoy, I don't know, maybe they will sip a glass of wine, maybe they will invite some friends, and they will be happy, and it makes me happy. I feel like I'm doing my job as a carpenter. Some kind of satisfaction that I was looking for as an architect. As an architect, when I was in the School of Architecture, I've done sociology, anthropology, ethnography, psychology, and I've tried to become an architect who was somebody complete, concerned, who would put her heart in her work to do the best job she can ever do. And we have a lot of responsibilities as architects. It's not only construction, it's not only building, it's also bringing the people in everyday life to dream, to be happy, to be secured. It's somebody in a wheelchair to be able to go in a shop, in a May, it's somebody in a house to feel secure in their house. And it's more than designing, it's more than making something cute, it's more than being an artist. It's being part of the life of many people, and trying to make sure that this life can be accomplished with the energy, the money, the effort they put to make a project. They build a house, they take a loan, they make, so it's they work to pay their loans, and it's all their life. They work every day to pay that. And as an architect, what I try to do is make sure that they feel complete. Like when they come back home, they know exactly why in the morning they have to wake up and go to work, because it makes them happy, because the projects they have done makes their life, build their family, help them to be a better person. And working as a carpenter, not all the time, but sometimes I feel that I have reached my own goal of being the person that I wanted to be as an architect, which as an architect never brought me that much satisfaction. I think the only satisfaction I had as an architect was when I got my patent. I worked so many years doing different kind of jobs, and when I got my patent, it was a real accomplishment. But this is something that you don't share with other people. It's my work, it's my effort, it's my blood, you know, and my sweat I put on the paper to write down a patent. I've worked 18 months on the patent. But when I got it, I was happy, because that was the accomplishment of many years of work. But that's it. It's something you don't share. Nobody understands, not even the family. They see you struggling, sweating. They see you, even employees, they don't understand. They don't see the change that it brings. Somebody in France one day told me, well, you have a patent, it's kind of capitalism. And it was like criticism. She was telling me that I was becoming a capitalist because I had a patent. And I struggled to explain, no, I'm not a capitalist. I'm just a designer, and I put my name on my work. Like Van Gogh, you know, this guy became crazy, but he put his name on his paint. And here I don't sign my carpentry. Sometimes when I build furniture, I sign my furniture. I have some kind of cuts that I put inside my construction, and that I know that nobody else will do. So that's my signature. But still, the smile on the face of my customer is my signature. It makes me happy. It's a real deep happiness. Okay, so I arrived in Home Depot. I'm going to buy some blades, and see you later.